Hello, my friends. Welcome to another episode of Deep True Crime, where we explore ongoing cases or cases that have already occurred. Now, this particular case has been this has been a spotlighted case now over a month, since September 11th. September 11th, when she was reported missing, everyone woke up. That sounds a little too loud, doesn't it? Give me one more second. Lower that a little more. Since September 11th, this has been the most talked about true crime case out there, bar none. Every day, I'm checking different ones to see what are people talking about. This is still the most talked about case. For interesting reasons, to be honest with you. Two, a young couple head out on a cross-country trip and only one comes back. Only one comes back. The other has no answers. The other one's not talking. The other one's not sharing anything. And so one of the popular topics that people have been continuously asking Google, yes, I checked that as well, is the Gabby Petito autopsy. That's exactly what I want to share with you today, is that autopsy. They finally are talking. Now, Dr. Blue, he couldn't give too much information. He could not share. Dr. Brent Blue, he was limited on how much he can share because of, number one, it's an ongoing investigation. Number two, by the law of Wyoming, he cannot share. It's an open, ongoing investigation. Obviously, right? They can't give away too much information because they have to gather evidence. You give away too much, it gives Brian a chance to try to cover his butt, come up with his story, and share whatever it is. Well, today, Dr. Brent Blue shared what happened in this case. And so I wanted to make sure that I share that with you. And so I will bring this up right here. And so Gabby Petito died of strangulation. And which John Walsh stands corrected. And he might have just threw this out there because at one time in an interview with CNN, he said something like beaten to death. And maybe he was just using it as a metaphor. I don't know. So I even thought like maybe he knew something we didn't know. Well, come to find out, she died of strangulation. And so a little bit of what was shared of this young lady taken way too soon. It's one of the most horrific cases you can come across. Anyone who goes missing, it's a sad day. Anyone who dies, it's a sad day. But to take someone who is so young, that is a sad day. And so a lot of people have been following this ongoing story. And so now it's been revealed that her cause of death was strangulation. Now, Dr. Brent Blue, obviously he's going to become well known because of this, but otherwise he's never been in the spotlight like this. And it's amazing. I watched the when they made the announcement today, when they had the press conference to make the announcement, and I watched it. And it was shared that, number one, he can't share much, but John Walsh himself was on and asked multiple times if he thinks that Brian Laundrie is the one that committed this. And he kept multiple times he cannot talk about it. But he may have slipped up and shared one thing. And I got this. He said, and this is his quote. He shared, and it's not in that article, so I'm not sharing that. So it's not in there, but he shared lots of, sadly, other instances of domestic violence across the country. He said that, which tells me this was a domestic violence attack, which means, as we know, they were engaged. That makes this domestic violence. This wasn't a stranger. That means that he's definitely behind this. And so here we are now, still on the hunt for Brian Laundrie, and no one knows anything. No one knows where he's at. He might be hiding out, but we don't know. And the coroner, Dr. Brent Blue, also said that her body was likely in the wilderness for 3 to 4 weeks before it was found. And so she goes on a cross-country trip with the now hiding and her then fiancé, Brian Laundrie. Now it's proven, it's said, it's shared, she died of strangulation. She was strangled. And now the FBI is still on the manhunt to find Brian Laundrie. And we don't know where he's at. We only hope he gets found. We only hope he gets found. Because they leave to go on a cross-country trip, live the van life, share that, they start vlogging, which is video logging, just, detail of what they're doing on this trip. And then he comes back September 1st, way before they were supposed to, with her van, and she's not in it. And so Chris Laundrie and Roberta Laundrie, they've even changed their story on when they thought he left. I mean, oh my gosh. And now that we know that this is strangulation, and Dr. Brent Blue even slips up and says domestic violence, he probably didn't mean to say that, because that's almost sharing a little too much. He's new at this. He doesn't know how to be careful with what he says. He even says, don't email me. I can't tell you anything about this autopsy other than strangulation. That's it. That's all he could say. John Walsh repeated the same question multiple times, but he said, I can't talk about it. But he also, and maybe that's what John Walsh was trying to do, to just trying to get him to say something other than he can't say anything, which he did. He said, lot of, sadly, other instances of domestic violence across the country, which says this is domestic violence. He believes that Brian Laundrie is responsible. His words, not mine, when it comes to domestic violence. For this to be a domestic violence means Brian Laundrie, did this. And this is probably the worst way he could have done this to her. I mean, why even do this? I don't even get that part. Why do this heinous act? Why? So now everyone, of course, it's all over the internet. Everyone's talking about it. Let's see what's the latest. Everyone's talking about it now. Gabby Petito's mom just messaged, responding to the Brian Laundrie family attorney stating his words are garbage. That's right. There was something from Laundrie attorney. Let's see something. Let's see if there's anything on here. Let's see the most recent. Because there was a statement that came out right after this came up. Let's see, to death in her announced in witness for 3 to 4 weeks before it was discovered. What's the statement? Let's find this statement and see. I should have had it, but better late than never. Let's see. I believe his name is Steve, right? There goes Dr. Blue right there. Let's look for Steve's name, if I can. Steve, there we go. Okay, so Stephen Bertolino, the attorney for Laundrie and his parents, released a statement as soon as the autopsy was released, calling her death a tragedy and saying his client is only a person of interest rather than a suspect. So it's right away, he's trying to denounce anything that says, hey, right now, no one's calling Brian the suspect. And if you guys watched my video yesterday, I went over what does it mean to be a person of interest. He's just a person of interest so that they can question him in the manner in this case. And so he goes on to say Gabby Petito's death at such a young age is a tragedy. Yes, it is, Stephen Bertolino. And this tragedy is that you know what happened. Let's be real, come on. You know what happened. And so he goes on to say, at this time, Brian is still missing, and when he is located, we will address the pending fraud charge against him. Because that's really all he's wanted for, is this fraud charge. Now, more has come out, because originally, when they were talking about this fraud charge, they didn't use Gabby Petito's name, that it was her card. But it has been confirmed now, yes, it was her card. And so we do know that part, that he is wanted for using her financial stuff, using her debit card and spending over $1,000, and also using her PIN to get cash out of the ATM. And so that's what we know so far. And what do you guys say? Leave me a comment what you believe has had more. If you believe anything on this, do you believe the attorney? The attorney, my guess, is sharing what he knows. I just believe common sense says more. And John Walsh made the comment in the news when he was asking. He says, I'm old school. And he says, to me, Brian is the suspect. To him. He's saying, I'm old school. You know, we understand the person of interest, but all roads pretty much lead to Brian. Yeah, well, obviously, right? All roads lead to Brian. So now we know that it was strangulation, and by the law, he cannot give more information. Let me make sure that... Oh, something else. He was asked this, and this is what blows my mind about some YouTubers like this Joseph Morris guy. He's obviously trying to do good while trying to create clickbait. To him, he wants to get exposure while getting clickbait. So he was one of the people that spread this rumor, was she pregnant? And the Dr. Brent Blue said no, right away. This question came up, was she pregnant? Right away, no, she was not pregnant. Because Joseph Morris just kind of found something on a trail and said, oh, was this? And it was obviously, it was not. But, you know, maybe his mind saw one thing and he said, no one's talking about it, so let me talk about it. I get the internet sleuths want to come up with stuff, but when you run with it in a public setting, that's when things get pretty bad. That's when things get pretty bad, because that's how misinformation is spread even further. Just like the video of on the water and a quick 10-second, 20-second clip on the water that Joseph Morris did himself and uploaded, like if it was to his own, if it was a Brian account. The things people will do to get views. And there was no credibility around this, but hey, let me create it, right? And he was busted in a Zoom video. So my point is, I'm not here to hate on anyone, but my point is, watch what you listen to. Watch what you listen to. Dig deeper. Dig deeper. Okay? Don't just assume that it's right because someone's talking about it because they have a lot of views. My friends, I'm Manny Rodriguez, and hey, if there's any particular cases, now I normally like to cover stuff that has an ending. This doesn't quite have an ending, but we know what happened. And now we even know more what happened now that we know the autopsy says strangulation. Let me know in the comments what you would like me to cover. I'm Manny Rodriguez, and this is another episode of Deep True Crime. Hey, if you got some value from this and you're glad to get your updates, hit that like button and hit that subscribe button. Click on that notification bell. That way when I do go live or upload content, you get notified. Thank you for being on this afternoon. I hope you have an amazing, amazing day, and I look forward to serving you again. Peace.